This is the story of abundance and unshakable faith, of how a small offering became more than enough. Let's set the scene. The Sea of Galilee. Picture it, a clear, bright sky above, and the murmurs of a massive crowd below. Over 5,000 men, along with women and children, had gathered to hear the teachings of Jesus. Now Jesus had been teaching tirelessly. He had compassion for the crowd because they were like sheep without a shepherd, hungry not just for food, but for guidance and truth. As the day stretched toward evening, the crowd began to grow restless. Stomachs started grumbling, and the disciples came to Jesus with a practical concern. "Master, send them to the nearby towns so they can buy food." But Jesus, calm and collected, gave the most unexpected reply. "You give them something to eat." The disciples, puzzled, looked at each other. How could they possibly feed such a multitude? Philip spoke up. "Even 200 denarii wouldn't buy enough bread for each person to have a bite." Then Andrew stepped forward, hesitating. "There is a boy here," he said, "who has 5 loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many?" Let's pause here for a moment. Imagine that boy, a simple, humble child standing in the midst of thousands. He didn't have much, but he gave what he had. In that act of sharing, his faith spoke louder than words. Jesus took the small bundle of bread and fish and did something extraordinary. He first asked the people to sit down on the grass, organizing them into groups. The crowd, confused but obedient, did as they were told. Jesus then lifted the food toward the heavens and gave thanks to God. The crowd watched attentively. Some perhaps were skeptical, others curious. What could one man possibly do with so little? What happened next was nothing short of astounding. Jesus began to break the bread and the fish, and he kept breaking and breaking and breaking. Miraculously, the food didn't run out. The disciples distributed basket after basket, moving through the enormous crowd. Over 5,000 men, not including women and children, ate until they were full, completely satisfied. Not just a nibble, not just enough to get by, full. Now here's where it gets even more amazing. When everyone had eaten their fill, Jesus instructed the disciples to gather up the leftovers, so that nothing may be wasted. They collected 12 full baskets of fragments. From a meager offering of 5 loaves and 2 fish, there was an abundance, food for today, and more to spare. So what can we take away from this incredible story? First, it highlights that in God's hands, little becomes much. You may feel like you don't have much to offer. Your time, your talents, your resources might feel inadequate. But when offered in faith, what's small in our hands can become abundant in His. Second, it's also a reminder that God's provision often comes through us. That little boy could have held tight to his meal, feeling it wasn't enough. But he let it go, and in doing so, became an instrument for one of Jesus' greatest miracles. Perhaps we too are called to release what we have, trusting that God will multiply it for His purposes. Lastly, we learn that God's blessings are not just sufficient, they are extravagant. The 12 baskets of leftovers weren't accidental. They were a testament to the abundance of God's grace. He doesn't just meet needs, He exceeds them. The feeding of the 5,000 is more than a story about bread and fish. It's a testimony of faith, provision, and abundance. In a world often dominated by scarcity, it reminds us that in God's kingdom, there is always more than enough. So, the next time you feel like you're lacking, remember, 5 loaves and 2 fish fed thousands. Imagine what God could do with what you have to offer.